If you were to guess as to what the first sort of domino would be to fall in terms of regulatory clarity, I've always been a proponent of let's have people write the legislation and know what they're talking about. The last thing this industry needs is a Sarbanes-Oxley type of response, which is just a broad sweeping catch-all of all digital assets. If you were a betting man, what would be the first thing or what would be the main driver of what that regulatory clarity will look like?
I wouldn't make a bet at this point because I think it's chaotic. Everyone is sort of jockeying for power in this new environment, and now that we've kind of defeated the Biden admin, I think people are realizing, oh, well, it's not really crypto. Like people have very very different interests within crypto. There's the DeFi contingent, there's the centralized exchanges, there's C DeFi, there's projects like Ripple and Stellar and Hedera that have these much more kind of centralized technologies, and it's much more like a corporate enterprise play, and they're catering to institutions. And so now there's a major jockeying for power. I think I don't think we'll see I don't think we'll see comprehensive congressional action this year. I think what we'll see though is there's going to be very pro crypto people at the SEC and the CFTC, right? And I think that they will try to do something, right? What will they try to do? Well, they could say something about past guidance, either reaffirming certain past guidance. Oh yes, the Hinman guidance, we still believe in that. We still believe in sufficient decentralization. Or some orgs backed by Ripple, frankly, and Stellar, are saying, no, we want you to denounce that. We want decentralization. It's not fair. Decentralization picks winners and losers. Denounce that. So there could be committees that are formed. There could be public sort of meetings that are held with industry leaders at them to discuss what a regulatory framework looks like. There could be no action letters that the agencies start considering again and enter, because they were not taking any no action requests for over 4 years. So I expect to see that sort of thing in the next year, and then expect to see some legislative proposals. The biggest one that got kind of closest to getting passed was Fit 21. Which my understanding is it had some support from both Coinbase and A16Z. And that the proposal under that was basically a bifurcated type of approach. The SEC keeps some power. The CFTC gets some new power. In fact, powers that have never existed, which is regulatory authority over a spot market, and probably end up being the main regulator of centralized exchanges and stuff like that as a result. So we may see kind of new flavors of that sort of thing and see these proposals start getting floated around. But yeah, it's really anyone's game at this point.
So that all sounds awesome, and it's miles better than where we were, 60 days ago. But the chaotic messiness which you're describing and which we're seeing leaves operators and entrepreneurs that are like, hey, I want to launch something now. Like, what do I do? The vibes are good. Everyone's saying like, we're back on track here. But when I come and talk to you, it's like, well, there's still this chaotic messiness out there where like it doesn't really give me much actionable, things to do. Even like if Fit 21 or Mika, I don't see either of those really enabling the kind of, so let's say, for example, DAO formation type work that you are working on. So, what does that leave for, entrepreneurs in, let's say, call it the next 6 months that want to, launch a DAO or launch a token or do something like how should they think about, the stated optimism versus the reality that this stuff takes time?
Yeah. I mean, well, first of all, crypto is about not really trusting the government, right? So I think, it's certainly nice if the government is more friendly, but you should still your number one goal should still be to build resilient, decentralized, autonomous systems, right? And you can't forget that goal. It's very tempting. We just had probably the biggest success of the year, certainly the biggest DeFi success is Hyperliquid. It's a completely centralized infrastructure, right? It's basically a CEX on smart contracts and on blockchain, right? And I think there's a temptation toward that, right? But I would hope that they try to pivot and try to build something decentralized as rapidly as possible, because you just don't want to be subject to the political winds. But anyway, what you should do, I think is, it's more risk on. So maybe you feel more comfortable, launching a token that you wouldn't have otherwise launched, being a bit more aggressive in your marketing and that sort of thing. I think obviously you still want to be honest, because there is still enforcement power that can be used, and I think it will be used against fraudulent or harmful projects. There also are class action litigation is picking up in the crypto related class action litigation is picking up in the US, and that's going to be based on the law as it currently exists. The Hawk Tua girl is now in the crosshairs of class action.
I think she's still taking her nap. I haven't
frankly,
heard.
Doesn't matter. It does. Yeah, she's still taking her nap. It frankly doesn't matter. You can't get served a subpoena if you're napping.
Right. Not legal advice, everybody. Yeah.
But I think Richard Hart is maybe still napping as well. But the reality is, like, you can't. Under existing law, they still have a lot of firepower, right? And the fact that there's a more positive outlook, doesn't really change what class action litigators can do. So you need to look out for that. But if you're an honest project, right, if you manage not to have people have catastrophic losses, your horizon of possibility is expanded, right? Because, launching in the U.S. maybe doesn't sound as crazy as it did a few months ago, right? U.S. is still a very tax-heavy jurisdiction as well, so there could be, tax reasons for launching offshore. So, there are all these things, but I think you want to take an intelligent bet on where you think the puck is headed, right? And skate toward that. And you run some risk, of course, right? But you also may catch a very big windfall. I mean, like, for example, Trump is saying, tokens issued from the U.S. Won't be taxed, or won't be taxed.
Yeah, I saw that.
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe you want to place a bet on that. I mean, that could be a really big payoff. And if it does happen, and the EU and these other jurisdictions keep taxing tokens that were, the U.S. keeps taxing, keeps putting U.S. taxes on something that was issued abroad. I mean, suddenly you're at a huge disadvantage because you didn't launch in the U.S. So there's going to be, this is the type of thing we'll be working through with clients. Certainly is, and keeping an ear to the ground in D.C. and all this stuff, and just trying to make intelligent bets.